Hello, hello. Oh, we got fanfare this time. That's so exciting.
I don't know.
I'll take it. Hey, I wish everyone was... I wish I could walk in a room and have, like, music play behind me.
Like John Cena?
Now that you say that...
No.
Now I don't know.
He's been coming up a lot in our episodes. I don't know why.
He has, now that I
It's
think
my
about
fault, but I don't know why.
I was going to say, I don't think I've ever mentioned him, but you for sure have. You know who else has come up a lot in our lives recently? Nicolas Cage.
Our close personal friends. Nicolas Cage and John Cena.
Exactly. Welcome back to another episode of Grapes and Coffee, folks. How are you, James?
Live and love you. Oh, God. How are you?
I'm very tired.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to, like, fake my mojo right now. But I feel like the exhaustion's getting to me a little bit. I'm not even back to work full time yet.
That's okay.
I don't know.
It's different for everybody.
Exactly. Well, I think this summer has flown by so quickly.
It felt really slow in June, and now suddenly it's over.
Yeah, well, especially for me, like, work ended in June. So all of June, I was like, oh, one day closer. And then the second it was the first day of summer, it was like, oh, you thought you were going to have a summer? No.
It's over.
It's done. You blinked, you missed it. But I'm still thinking about our New Orleans trip. I think I'm still kind of coming down from traveling. So today, we are jumping into one of our favorite true crime stories to ever come out of Louisiana. Let's talk the Axeman.
I'm Kate.
And I'm Jane, and this is Grapes and Coffee,
A show where we talk about the dark parts of the world around us.
Cryptids, conspiracies, things that go bump in the night.
And the crimes behind the scariest creatures of all, humans.
Join us as we take a look at the stories sure to give you the creeps.
Pull up a seat, grab a coffee,
and let's have a chat.
So the Axeman.
I should say, we've pointed out, I think, maybe it was Son of Sam, maybe it was the Zodiac Killer. I went on a whole rant about how we shouldn't be giving killers names.
We can't help it this time.
It might have been Jack the Ripper. I don't know.
Probably.
One of those episodes, I was like, nope. The more you sensationalize something, the more it turns into a story for the media. And it takes away from the personal aspect of the genuine, like, monstrosities that are being committed. These are terrible acts. People are being killed. People are being abused. You don't want to sensationalize it and make it like, oh, that's the toy box killer. Oh, like, you don't want to give them a fun thing. That's ridiculous. They have names. They're monsters. The problem in this case... It's never been solved.
This guy never got caught. But also, I can't believe he hasn't gotten caught because he was not very good at it.
I can believe he hasn't gotten caught because we're going to go back to the early 1900s in the U.S. We're actually going to start in about 1910, but we're going to focus in and around 1918 to 1920, let's say.
Was this pre or post Titanic?
Where we're going to start was we're going to...
Because it was in 1912.
She does listen to me.
Nice.
Correct. Titanic sank on April 14th. Well, April 15th, 1912. It hit the iceberg on the 14th. Anyway, not the point.
I'm going to pass out.
I mean, think about the world at that time. I was going to say think about the States at that time, but the world in general. It's the time where you're not really worried about being caught for a crime because DNA is not a thing that they know how to look at.
But he was so sloppy. If it had happened nowadays, he would have gotten caught.
Oh, without a doubt. But I think there's a lot of other aspects of this case that I think also play a role in it. We're going to talk about the mafia. We're going to talk about some racial issues. We're going to talk about a world that really is very different from the world that we live in now. I mean, there's still problems. I'm not going to pretend that we're in a perfect world by any means. But a lot of those types of issues in the early 1900s really clouded people's perspectives. It was a lot easier to be accused of a crime. It was a lot easier to convince people that you were not involved in a crime because everything was word of mouth. Everything relied on your status in society. It relied on what other people thought of you. It relied on eyewitness accounts. Because realistically, if a police chief walks into a murder scene and sees a pile of blood, can he look at blood splatter patterns? Absolutely. Do they really have major analysis of that at this time, though? No. If they find the weapon, great. They know
unless
what
you're
killed
Sherlock Holmes, I guess.
Exactly. But that's the thing. Unless you're a very, very skilled and specific detective, which there certainly were, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to pretend that every detective was completely incompetent. But you're kind of at the liberty of the tools that you have and the tools of the trade. And unfortunately, in 1912, 1918, there weren't very many tools for the trade. So it really became a situation where an entire state was afraid for a long time. And that starts in 1910. So we don't have a lot of details, but I do want to point out that from 1910 to 1912, there was a specific area of Louisiana that was dealing with a string of murders. This string of murders involved a man and a cleaver that would often be a cleaver, like one of those giant knives, for those that don't know what a cleaver is. Big, like, butcher knife looking thing. That was typically owned by the family or whoever at the house. They would be murdered with their own cleaver. The cleaver would be left at the scene. And then the guy would disappear. So this happened on and off between 1910 and 1912. I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but that sets the tone for what we're about to jump into. So now we're leaving that small part of Louisiana and we're going to New Orleans. And we're going to the beautiful city of New Orleans in May of 1918. So I want you to picture, I mean, I don't imagine New Orleans looked very different than it does now, to
It
be
looks
completely
almost
honest.
the exact same.
All the pictures we saw in the museums, I was like, well, that's exactly what that place looks like. Maybe the establishments have changed. I mean, there definitely weren't vape stores and bars that had, like, hip-hop music all the time. But you've got your red light district. Fun fact, New Orleans was one of the first places to have a red light district.
Woo!
Yeah, go New Orleans. You had your jazz clubs. You had your specific areas for partying. Bourbon Street has been Bourbon Street its whole life. Like, it's a place where horses and buggies are going. Like, it's a typical city in 1918. So we're going to start off with the mix of cultures in New Orleans at that time, which I think is really important to mention before we get into the main people we're going to talk about for now. New Orleans has a very intense history when it comes to racial issues, shall we say. Even into modern day, New Orleans has the highest incarceration rates in the country. Louisiana really struggles with, I guess, maintaining the peace when it comes to civilians and law enforcement. There's a lot of corruption of power. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes things that have been continuous from the time of slave ownership into modern day. So, all that to say, there were certain groups in New Orleans that were very, very accepting. It was kind of, you were kind of on either end of the polar opposite standing. You either had no issue intermingling with other races and other cultures, and you were very accepting of everybody. And there were a large amount of people who took a different perspective on slavery and took a different perspective on servantry and had no issue intermingling. Or you were on the other end and you did not interact. And that doesn't just mean blacks and whites. It means there were issues with Asian people. There were issues with Celtic immigrants. There were issues with Italian immigrants. And what we're going to focus on today...
Those freaking Canadians.
What we're going to focus on today are those Italian immigrants. And a specific issue that seemed to be happening within the Italian community in New Orleans. Now, it's funny because when I think of New Orleans, I don't necessarily think of an Italian community. When I think of...
I didn't until I ate a muffaletta in New Orleans, so...
That's true, but when you think of, like, places with strong Italian-American origins, it's New York, it's New Jersey, it's Boston. You know what I mean? Like, the places that seem to still hold that in high regard. Yeah. But New Orleans had a pretty strong Italian community. They seemed to run the supermarkets, which was a very Italian thing to do. Unfortunately, stereotypically, there was also a lot of Italian gang violence in New Orleans at the time. But not everyone is obviously involved in it. Not every Italian is in the mafia, even though my neighbor downstairs when I lived in Verona definitely was.
But he was a cool guy to you, so it's like... So we're chilling.
He was fantastic. I did hear him yell at plenty of people, though, and I was like, do not want to get on this guy's bad side.
No.
But we're going to start May 23rd, 1918, with a dude named Andrew Maggio. Andrew had just gotten accepted into the Navy, which was a big deal. Dudes at this time were pumped about it. Personally, I have my own feelings about the Navy, but that's, neither here nor there.
No comment.
That's fine. Whatever. But he wanted to celebrate. He had a different opinion than I did on the Navy, and he wanted to celebrate. So, he spends the night drinking. He's pumped, comes home, stumbling home drunk. And as he gets to his apartment at Upper Line and Magnolia Streets in New Orleans, he starts to hear strange sounds coming from the apartment next door. Now, his neighbor in that apartment also happened to be his brother and sister-in-law, Joseph and Catherine Maggio. Which I feel like would be sick. Living with, like, right next to your sibling, especially in an Italian family. You want to be nice and close. Joseph was an Italian grocer, however you want to say it. He owned a grocery store. He worked at a grocery store. And Andrew didn't think anything of it. And stumbled into his apartment, went to bed. What Andrew didn't realize was that he had walked past Joseph and Catherine being murdered.
Oh.
They were lying still with their throats slit and their heads bashed in with an axe. Andrew ended up going to check on his brother because he went in and was like, I don't know, something doesn't feel right. Maybe I'll just go check. He ignored it for a little bit, but then thought, no, I'll go pop in. Joseph was still alive when Andrew found him, but he died minutes later.
That poor brother must feel so guilty.
Oh, buckle up. Catherine, on the other hand, was definitely not alive. Her throat had been cut so severely that her head was nearly decapitated.
Ugh.
I mean, an axe is not going to do minimal damage, unfortunately. Remember when your dad got hit in the head with an axe?
He got his hand hit with an axe.
And
Oh, he did both.
Yeah.
Dad, you're insane. Yeah, he's done both.
I think about that all the time. So, axes don't do minimal damage. They're an axe. We use them for a reason. Now, they didn't know at first that it had been done by an axe. There was a bloody razor found in the apartment that belonged to Andrew, or more specifically, Andrew's barbershop. And that was believed to be the primary murder weapon. Which, again, as a detective coming onto the case, I can completely understand that being a possibility. And, I mean, finding a straight razor, it's valid. However...
Are we the detectives?
I always look at things like a detective. However, I also don't think it unlikely that Andrew would have given his brother a straight razor so that he could shave his face. I own a barbershop. Maybe you can't always get in. Here, take this razor. Have it. But with that idea, police also questioned how Andrew was coming home and couldn't hear the forced entry of a crazed axe murderer. Andrew had said, I'm pretty sure it was an axe. They must have been hit this way. And the cops were like, but you didn't hear any of that? So he was arrested as a primary suspect of the murder of his brother and sister-in-law. However, police very quickly found out that this was not the case and Andrew was not the murderer.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, accounts of brutal murders in a very similar manner would soon become a regular occurrence for the citizens of New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And with this, the legend of the Axeman begins. Now, before I get into anything, as I do with all true crime, I'm not going to go into immense detail. Yes, I did just mention that she was almost decapitated, but I'm only going to throw in the parts of the story that are significant and relevant. Because, as I do with all true crime stories, we need to remember these are real people. Unfortunately, I cannot give a name to the monster that did this to them. And I'm forced to call him by what he has presented himself as to the media and to the world. However, the people that
Small penis man.
Exactly. The people that he victimized were real people. They were not monsters. They were unfortunate victims of the circumstance in this situation. And they deserve to have their stories told. So that's what we're going to do. So please just remember, this is not the place for gory details. This is not the place for glorification of those things, just for the purpose of entertainment. We're here to talk about a case and speculate what's going on with a piece of history in the world. And that's my quick little spiel on that. So, the murders all played out in a very similar fashion. The door panels, in a very Shining-like manner, were chiseled out of the entrances, where the perpetrator would access the lock and enter the house. Typically, when it came to these attacks, the axe that he would use would belong to the residents, and he would swing at the victims while they were asleep in their beds. So it's not like he's using the same axe every time. It's not like there's a constant weapon. We know that he was using an axe because the axe was left at the scene. And the axe was not out of place because it was often owned by the homeowners. Again, it's an axe. It's a tool that they're going to use. I feel like now maybe many people might not have axes. That might not be something that's in everybody's like tool shed.
At least not a lot of people in the city.
Oh, exactly, yeah. But think about, again, we're in 1918, 1919. They're a lot more accessible. When it came to these break-ins, the homes were ransacked. They were definitely gone through and things were everywhere and there was clearly a struggle. But items were rarely taken. It's not like burglary was the main motivation for these crimes. It played almost no part in it, from what the detectives were able to point out. If there were survivors, and there were a handful, they were often so overwhelmed and shocked by the speed and the surprise of it all that they weren't able to describe what happened. And obviously, the police had no idea what was going on. Again, think about the time frame. This is not a time when detectives have great clues to work with. They don't have a lot of substantial evidence that they can go off of. Basically, unless you have a direct eyewitness account, and someone who knows that person exactly, the likelihood that they're going to catch the person who's doing it, unfortunately, is not super high. So let's talk about the victims. The victims were typically Italian grocers, just like Joseph was. The Italians owned about half the groceries in this area of New Orleans. It was almost believed that, in a similar manner to a lot of far-right perspectives on immigration currently, it was seen that they were immigrating to America in these large groups, stealing American jobs, stealing parts of American culture, and they were criminals, they were con artists, and that they were inferior to those who were born and raised in the U.S. Which I won't even get into. It's a bullshit thing. But the primary motive behind the Axeman's attacks seemed to be xenophobia and a disdain for Italian immigrants, particularly the ones who were successful. And it's no different than anyone going anywhere and trying to build a new life for themselves. It's no different than if they had stayed in Italy and started a grocery store. They've started a positive life for themselves, and I don't think there's any merit in them being attacked for their success. Particularly in a time when everyone's struggling. Everyone's fighting to do the right thing and take care of themselves. Just so happens that the Italian Americans were getting a shit end of the stick at this point in time. So on June 27th, 1918, which would have been about a month after the death of Joseph and Catherine Maggio, Louis Bessemer and his mistress, not his wife, his mistress, the scandalous man, Harriet Lowe, were attacked in Bessemer's grocery, not in an apartment, not in any specific sacred place, but in the grocery store by a man with an axe. Louis was struck in the right temple, and Harriet was struck over her left ear. A wagon driver by the name of John Zonka found Harriet and Louis around 7 a.m. at the grocery store, lying in a puddle of their own blood. They were somehow, luckily, still alive. This is where we start to see kind of a race war, racial issues go back and forth. Harriet described the attacker as a mulatto man. So the term mulatto...
I was going to say, what does that mean?
It's not a great term to use. It was typically used to describe mixed race people. So typically, black and white being the race is mixed. It was a very common term in the South, specifically the southeastern United States, during the era of slavery. So we learned a lot about racial issues in Louisiana and how common it really was for slave women specifically to be having children with free men, typically white men, because their children would be born free. There was a whole, obviously I could get into the whole history of that because it's very interesting, but for the sake of time, it was very common to see biracial people in Louisiana at this time because of laws like that. Unfortunately, people didn't always see it as a normal thing. And that's where we get mulatto. Some sources suggest that it comes from a Portuguese word that means mule. So a mule being the hybrid of a horse and a donkey.
Oh.
Yeah. So Harriet was quick to say that it was this type of person. Which in normal terms, not questionable terms, we would say was a mixed race man. There was an employee at Bessemer's grocery, so at Louis' grocery, named Louis Ubicon, I believe is how you say his last name. And he was a 41-year-old African-American man. And he couldn't give direct accounts to the police about his whereabouts at the time. So solely for the color of his skin, police arrested him, but then couldn't find any further evidence linking him to the crime. And thankfully he was...
Just like now.
Well, exactly. It kind of goes to show that it may not really be that different. Unfortunately, we haven't come as long of a way as we may think we have.
No.
But what further came from this is a scandal about Louis and Harriet having been together in the first place. So remember, Harriet was not Louis's wife. That was his mistress. So it very quickly, again as it does in modern day, became less about the attack and more about the affair and his love life. Harriet really, really played into this. She made a bunch of conflicting and super taboo statements about the attacks and about Louis himself. Harriet ended up passing away on August 15th due to complications in a surgery to fix her paralysis. So when she got attacked with the axe, when she got hit on the left side, it caused her to be paralyzed. They went in to try and fix that. Clearly it did not work out well in her favor. On her deathbed, she stated that Louis, the man that also got attacked, the man she was cheating with, was the man who attacked her with the axe.
Oh, plot twist.
This kind of has nothing to do with it, but I thought this was an interesting thing. I'll link a couple of the articles that I used too, because I loved the gossip that they included, and I love it. Police had already suspected Louis Bessemer, but not for being the Axeman.
Oh.
They had found letters in Russian, German, and Yiddish, and Harriet confirmed for the police that Louis Bessemer was
a spy.
Was a German spy. However, that was not the case. He just happened to be able to speak those languages.
Oh.
And they were very wrong about everything. They accused him of a bunch of bullshit. And a jury found Louis not guilty of the assault after a 9-month arrest based on this deathbed confession, but a 10-minute deliberation. It took the jury 10 minutes to be like, there's no way it was this guy. So, again, we can see the ways that media really plays a role in pushing things that have nothing to do with the actual case at hand, which I think is interesting to see that has not changed. And the more aggressive role of media today has made that even easier to get facts misconstrued. But, again, okay, so Harriet passed away August 5th. On that same night, Anna Schneider, a 28-year-old woman in New Orleans, woke up to a dark figure standing over her bed.
Terrifying.
When this man realized she was awake, he bashed her head in multiple times and cut her scalp open with what police believed was a lamp.
Ugh.
So very aggressive behavior, seemingly unprovoked. Her husband, Ed, returned late from work. He came home after midnight to discover his wife in bed with her face covered in blood. Somehow, Anna was alive. but her memory was non-existent. She remembered nothing from the attack, but the stress from the attack caused the 8-month pregnant woman to give birth to a baby 2 days later.
Whoa.
Baby was healthy, mom was healthy. Super strange. She remembered nothing of it, but her body certainly remembered the stress. Which is crazy. None of the windows or doors in Anna and Ed's house had been forced open. Police were so confused. They had a couple leads. There was a man named James Gleason who ran from the authorities after this, so they thought maybe because he was an ex-convict, maybe he could have been connected to this attack, but there was no real evidence. He only ran because he didn't want to be arrested. He said that he was often arrested, which is really funny because I've been watching a lot of Cops, and that seems to be a common... Police are like, why are you running if you didn't do anything wrong? And they're like, I didn't want to be arrested. I'm like, but you didn't do anything. And they're like, well...
Still?
So it's interesting that also hasn't changed. But, again, no evidence, so they were like, I guess you're fine to go. So, there was no leads in the Maggio case. There was no leads in the Bessemer case. And now there's no leads for the Schneider case. So police, for the first time, start publicly speculating that these attacks may have been by the same man. Maybe it wasn't a lamp. Maybe it was an axe handle. Maybe it's the same guy. So when you start those speculations, the public starts to get scared too. 5 days later, on August 10th of 1918, a couple named Sisters Pauline and Mary Bruno awoke to find their elderly uncle, Joseph Romano, in his room with 2 cuts on his head. They also entered the room at the same time as how they described a dark-skinned, heavy-set man wearing a dark suit and a slouched hat was fleeing the house. Unfortunately, Joseph passed away 2 days later, and the police, upon investigation, would find a bloody hatchet in the backyard and find that the back door panel had been chiseled away. So again, we see the same markings, just with a hatchet instead of an axe. A hatchet is just a tiny axe. So they're starting to really think something could be going on. Now that we have a 4th murder, the people in New Orleans are freaking the fuck out. People are calling into police all the time, saying that they found axes in their backyards. They found a guy with an axe lurking around their area. There was a constant paranoia that you could be next, particularly if you were Italian. So, in an attempt to help, I'll say, but what really just ended up making it far worse, a retired detective named John D'Antonio publicized his theories about it in the newspaper at the time. So he hypothesized that this killer had dual personalities, which at the time, if you had any sort of mental health issue, it was a fucking problem. You were a disaster, you were a monster, you were terrifying. Now, he portrayed this individual as a real-life Jekyll and Hyde. And D'Antonio was the first to connect the 1918 murders to the Cleaver assaults from 1910 to 1912. He said, I know that there's these cases in a different part of Louisiana where, similarly, people were attacked with cleavers, things were broken into, nothing was taken. Maybe he's just moved on to here. Apparently, in the murder of the Maggio couple of Joseph and Catherine, detectives found a message in chalk which read, Mrs. Maggio is going to sit up tonight just like Mrs. Tony. And according to Detective D'Antonio, Mrs. Tony Siambra was an Italian woman who was murdered in 1912. So he connected that even more. But then things stopped for a while. So that's August of 1918. We fast forward to March 10th of 1919. We're going to go across the Mississippi. So pop over the river. We're going to Gretna at Jefferson Avenue and 2nd Street. We've got another Italian grocer. His name is, and I have to say this with an Italian accent because it feels wrong not to. His name was Orlando Giordano. In Italian it would be, or in an English accent it would be Orlando Giordano. But his name is spelled Iorlando. So it has to be Orlando. Orlando Giordano. 69-year-old. He hears screams coming from his neighbors, the Cortimilias.
Whoa.
I love Italian names. God, I miss living in Italy. Anyway, not the point. Because,
Cortimilia.
yeah, the Cortimilias are not having a good time. I feel bad laughing because they're really not having a good time. Orlando finds Charles Cortimilia lying on the floor bleeding, and Charles's wife, Rosie, clutching her dead baby daughter, Mary, while bleeding from a head wound. He finds there's a bloody axe, and that the back door panel has been chiseled. Rosie, the wife, survives for the time being, at least a little bit, claims that Orlando and his son Frank, which is, again, I shouldn't be making jokes at this time because this is a terrible thing, but Frank is such a not Italian name, but such a strong Italian-American name that you can definitely tell that, like, Orlando came from Italy and Frank was born in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, what's a good name? Frank. That guy. Frankie is just a very, like, Italian-American name.
Mm-hmm.
But Rosie claims that Orlando and his son Frank were the ones that attacked them. I need you to keep in mind, Orlando was a 69-year-old man who owned a grocery store. He was too frail to have done that. Frank is a young man. He's pretty muscular. He's too large to have fit through a door panel. There is no way that they did this. Despite that, because again, like I said, you're going off eyewitness testimony. That's the only evidence you really have. And the fact that Orlando was the one to find them.
Yeah.
Police arrested them, and they were found guilty. Frank was sentenced to be hanged, and Orlando was sentenced to life in prison.
My God.
Charles ended up surviving as well, Rosie's husband, and Charles Cortimilia denied his wife's claims and eventually divorced her over the trial. He was adamant that they were not the people that attacked them and that they had saved their lives. Rosie later came forward and said she falsely accused the Giordano's out of jealousy and spite.
Girl.
They were then released from prison. 3 days later, on March 13th, 1919, the media gets a letter signed from hell. And this is where we get the first letter of admission from the Axeman. And despite the fact...
Zodiac Killer.
100%, just a couple years ahead.
Well then the Zodiac Killer's giving Axeman.
Exactly. So, I'm going to read you the letter.
Please do, kid.
Because I was a theater kid and I can do it dramatically. But also, this is where the infamy of the Axeman case really starts. Because yes, he was attacking multiple families. Yes, he was already a serial attacker. But people outside of the Italian community weren't affected until now. There was paranoia, but they didn't really believe they would be attacked until now. So this is what the newspaper got. Hell, March 13th, 1919. Esteemed mortal, they have never caught me, and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I'm what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman. When I see fit, I shall come and claim other victims. I alone know whom they shall be. I shall leave no clue except my bloody axe, besmeared with blood and brains of he whom I have sent below to keep me company. If you wish, you may tell the police to be careful not to rile me. Of course, I am a reasonable spirit. I take no offense at the way they have conducted their investigations in the past. In fact, they have been so utterly stupid as to not only amuse me, but His Satanic Majesty, Francis Joseph, etc. But tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover what I am, for it were better that they were never born than to incur the wrath of the Axeman. I don't think there is any need of such a warning, for I feel sure the police will always dodge me as they have in the past. They are wise and know how to keep away from all harm. Undoubtedly, you Orleanians think of me as a most horrible murderer, which I am, but I could be much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay a visit to your city every night. At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens, for I am in close relationship with the angel of death. Now, to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time, on next Tuesday night, I am going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I am going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well then, so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe. Well, as I am cold and crave the warmth of my native Tartarus, and it is about time I leave your earthly home, I will cease my discourse, hoping that thou wilt publish this, that it may go well with thee. I have been, am, and will be the worst spirit that ever existed, either in fact or realm of fantasy. The Axeman. First of all, what the fuck?
That's a mentally mentally unstable individual right there.
100%.
I'm besties with the angel of death.
You're a spirit? You hope the police never discover what you are? What the hell are you talking about? Your satanic abilities. But...
This is the dad of the son of Sam.
Yeah. But consider the fact that this is 1919. I mean, even in modern day, religious things strike a lot of fear in people. And New Orleans especially is a very spiritual and religious place. Whatever your religion may be, spirituality is a part of the foundations of New Orleans. And the idea that something evil, whether it's Satan, whether it's an angel of death, like whatever you believe in, there's always good and there's always evil. There is no religion that believes only in the existence of good. That I'm aware of, anyway. So the thought that someone has the ability to be the most evil being is terrifying. When you don't know any better, your city is already filled with paranoia. It's gonna be a lot. So the following Tuesday was March 18th. Legend says that March 18th, 1919 was the loudest night in New Orleans history. A bunch of paranoid Orleanians ended up at jazz clubs. Jazz clubs were popular anyway. It was already the foundational place for jazz music, and it was already kind of a bumpin' place to begin with. But even if you weren't a big fan of jazz, you were at a jazz club.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had to be at home, those households were blaring jazz music through their phonograms. The records were just fucking spinning with jazz music. And no one died that night. Everyone listened to the appeals of this crazed man.
I would too, just to be safe.
Oh, I would, if all I had to do was play jazz music not to die, I'd play jazz music anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course I'm going to play it.
Done.
But this also sparked controversy. There was a local jazz musician named Joseph John Davila who wrote a song to scare off the Axeman and was like, no, this is what we're going to play. And he titled it The Mysterious Axeman's Jazz. Don't Scare Me, Papa.
Mm-hmm.
This song became a huge hit, and obviously Davila made a bunch of money off of it. But this led to theories that Davila himself, or some sort of jazz musician, because he obviously was not the only musician who took it upon themselves to take this as inspiration,
Mm-hmm.
that some musician wrote the Satanic Letter to boost jazz's popularity.
Mm-hmm.
And introduce jazz to even the people who would have been scared to listen to it in the first place, because it was colored music. So, there was lots of controversy. Was the letter real? Was it not? But the fact of the matter was, nobody died until August.
Mm.
So people really thought that this was the key. There were 2 attacks that happened August 10th and September 3rd of 1919. Steve Boca and Sarah Lauman awoke to an Axeman, maybe the Axeman, we don't know, attacking them. Both survived, but were completely unable to recall what happened. So I'd also like to point out, he doesn't have a great track record of actually, like, murdering.
That's what I mean. He's not good at his, like... What happened to the Angel of Death? He's not doing a very good job. Like,
You caused, like, 1 person, 2 people to die? Out of the 6 attacks that you've done so far?
Mm.
So many people believe this was the end of the Axeman attacks.
Mm.
However, there is speculation that the last of the Axeman attacks actually happened October 27th, 1919. I struggle to believe this, personally, but I'm going to talk about them anyway, because they were believed at the time to be caused by the Axemen.
Okay.
So a woman named Esther Pepitone awoke to her husband, Mike, being struck in the head by a large axe, wielded by an Axeman. Blood splattered all over the room, but he didn't touch her, and Esther couldn't describe the killer at all. Supposedly, she's very overwhelmed by that shouldn't be supposed. She probably was very overwhelmed by this. You're watching your husband get murdered. You're covered in his blood. It's a very traumatic experience. So she left New Orleans. And Esther relocated to Los Angeles, where she met and married a man named Angelo Albano. 2 years after Mike Pepitone's death. So this is October of 1921 now. Angelo mysteriously disappeared. Angelo used to have business relations, specific ties, with a man who went by the name Joseph Mumphrey. Mumphrey visited Esther's home on December 5th, 1921, so a couple months after the disappearance of Angelo, and demanded a payment of $500 and her most expensive jewelry. And if she refused, Mumphrey said that he would, and I quote, kill her the same way he had killed her husband. Esther, however, shot him dead. And was like, no, I'm not doing this. You're gone.
Boom.
Which, like, there you go. Cool. When the police came, Esther claimed that she saw the same man that was there the night that Mike Pepitone was murdered. So she was claiming that Mumphrey was connected to Pepitone's murder. So the police found some circumstantial evidence connecting these two, including Mumphrey's leadership role in a blackmailing gang in New Orleans that was targeting Italian immigrants.
Was he the one that they called the Button Man? I think so.
Adding to the speculation and the likelihood of a connection, remember Detective D'Antonio had connected the 1910-1912 murders? There was suspicion that Mumphrey was connected to the earlier 1912 shooting of the Chiambres. Remember there was the chalk writing that Mrs. Maggio would end up like Mrs. Tony?
Okay.
So Mrs. Tony was one of the Chiambres. The prime suspect in that case had the name Mumphrey. And Joseph Mumphrey, so M-O-M versus M-U-M, was known to go by multiple names. Again, we're at a time where there's not a lot of ways to prove somebody's identity. However, despite all of this, bless you.
Thank you.
Despite all of this, experts and myself still fervently disagree about Mumphrey's guilt. Do I believe he could have been linked to the disappearance and murder of Alberto? Yes. Yes, Jamie.
I also wanted to add, I saw a thing about the guy with the M-O-N, Monfrey. Apparently, he was arrested for using dynamite to blow up an Italian grocery store in 1908.
Yes, so that goes back to the blackmailing gang in New Orleans. They were targeting Italians all the time. And by targeting...
That makes it worse for his case.
100%. But I think, realistically, what probably happened here is that the murder of Mike Pepitone and of Tony and his wife is probably attributed to Italian gang violence. Whether Mike and whether Angelo, I think I called him Alberto a minute ago, I'm getting my Italian names confused, Angelo Albano, whether they were killed with an axe, disputed. Whether Esther was involved or not, also disputed. But whether these two murders can be attributed to the actual Axeman is questionable. And then after that, a bunch more theories come out. They believe he may have appeared in Louisiana sometime later. Alexandria, DeRitter, and Lake Charles, Louisiana, all had Italian grocers that were attacked by axes. And then he completely vanished. And the Axeman was never heard from again. Supposedly. There's no rhyme for why he showed up, and he disappeared just as quickly as he appeared.
Appeared and disappeared as quickly as trumpet in a jazz song.
Ho! Look at
Write
her
that
with
one down.
jazz analogies. Trumpet in a jazz song. I like it. I feel like more songs need trumpets. Honestly.
Yeah. I can't play the trumpet, but it sounds good.
Nor can I. But I lose my mind when I hear trumpets in songs.
Should I theorize, or do you have anything else?
Please. Before I start talking about trumpets again.
I'll hit you honestly with some theories, and whether you believe it or not, you can yay or nay it. Because I don't know.
That's the thing with this case, is like there's no real... There's theories, and the theories have... There's foundations to each of the theories, 100%.
Yeah.
But there's none that fit perfectly.
Did you talk about James Gleason? Okay.
He was the one that ran.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to be honest, before we started this episode, I never really had a theory. I was just the Axeman, he never got caught. So I don't know which one I believe. The first theory is that they were all the murders were a serial killer. The first batch and the final batch were the same person.
Okay.
Not that he was very good, but
Clearly.
that it's a specific serial killer, no robberies, nothing related to gangs, anything like that. Thoughts?
No.
Why?
I think I mean, I agree with the no robberies thing, because I don't think robbery was any motivation. Like I said, things were ransacked, but they were very rarely taken.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there had to be an ulterior motive, and with the amount of things... I mean, like we were just talking about, fucking dynamite being thrown at Italian families. I think for the specific group that was targeted, there was too much gang-related violence for it to not be a really, really prominent factor.
Okay. Fair enough.
Do I think maybe it was someone who was connected to a gang and went off and did their own thing? Probably. But I think he had to have some sort of inside information as to why these were the people he was attacking. And I think that comes with affiliation to a higher group.
Or
Okay.
a higher power.
Okay. Or the angel of death.
What
Yes.
what if this is a spirit or some sort of demon or deity, something supernatural, not doing a very good job, but what if
causing
it's a ghost
fear.
killing people? Yeah.
My thing is,
Demonic entity.
well, you know what? I was going to make the argument that we don't have many stories about spiritual things killing people. Very rarely do they have that power. But they do have the power to hurt and cause fear. That's where they get their energy from. But as I was about to make that argument, it dawned on me that he didn't really kill that many people. I mean, he didn't even actually kill Harriet. It was complications from a surgery that did. So, potentially, the only thing that throws me off with that, and I know it's an out there theory, so don't come for me for that, for being like, oh no, maybe. I think what guides me away from that theory, as much as I would like to believe it, is, number one, its ability to move around so freely. And number two, the fact, like, spirits don't really write letters usually.
It's a pretty good point there.
You know? I've never been like, dear visitors of the Sally house, I am the demon that lives in the children's room.
How are you? I hope you're doing well.
Like,
XOXO Beelzebub.
Thank you. Thank you for leaving the toys in the room. I arranged them in a lovely circle. Did you see? I also lit the house on fire. If you could stop recording me, that would be great.
With love, Azazel.
Yeah.
Heart.
Heart with flames around it.
Okay, fine.
Like, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. If we're going ludicrous enough to think that this murder could be done, like, these attacks could be done solely by an entity.
Yeah.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to be like, no, I probably could write a letter. But
Yeah.
that just seems to
probably
be
not.
the thing that's throwing me off.
The next theory is not as cool. It's just that this was a racist person and these were all ethnically motivated.
I don't think that's a theory. I think that's just kind of a fact.
Yeah. I guess that's the one I'm most likely to believe is this.
Yeah.
This is just some guy who was like, God, these Italians, I should kill them. And then he did.
That
Solved.
Seems to
You're welcome.
Yeah, that seems to me to be the most plausible. Because here's the thing, and again, I mean no disrespect to anyone. I lived in Italy. I loved it, but because I lived in Italy, I feel like I got a pretty good insight to, like, true Italians, and they are not.
Watch your wording.
I know. They are not the most... how do I say this? Actually, all I will say is that the town that I lived in was Mussolini's headquarters. And things really haven't changed from that time. That's all I'll say.
Oh, I'm going to talk about him later.
Oh, perfect. But you know what I mean? It's they're maybe not the least racist people I've ever met. That's, not the most, for sure. But they're not great with it. So, do I think that racial tensions between the Italian immigrants and any people of color in New Orleans were great? Probably not. Do I think that justifies being attacked with an axe? No. I think maybe conversations should have happened between the two.
Yeah.
But, can I see where some tension would be created? Yeah, probably.
Next topic. This theory was suggested by some crime analysts. Say that. Analysts. That the killings were sexually motivated.
Interesting.
And that the murderer was a sexual sadist, specifically seeking female victims, and he only killed the male victims or, like, hurt them if they were in the way of his attempt to murder the women.
Did this come from Aaron Hotchner? The way that was worded?
Apparently it came from criminologists Colin and Damon Wilson.
Interesting. They must be on the new season.
I don't know if I believe that one, but it's a theory.
It is a theory. Personally, I mean, I can see the, like, intensity of the attack being personal, but I don't, like, they're not attacking, he's not going after genitals. He's not going after typically sexual areas. Maybe because it's in the bedroom, sure, but I think that's just because they were asleep and they're easier targets when they're not fighting back.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see a sexual sadistic connection.
Nor do I, but I figured I'd include it. We're the experts. We know more than criminologists.
Obviously.
Aaron and Derek Wilson. I don't remember their names.
That wasn't any of the
James
names that you...
and Henry Wilson.
The Wilson guys, I don't agree with you.
Patrick Wilson.
Exactly.
As Raoul from Phantom of the Opera. It was the Phantom of the Opera.
Oh my god, we figured it out.
God, I knew it.
He was branching from the opera. He wanted jazz instead.
Love that guy. What? That's controversial. Next one, the copycat. It was a copycat killer. The 1919 murders were a copycat from whoever did it in 1911 or 1912 or whatever. Also plausible.
Yeah, I think that is super plausible, depending on who... Because, I mean, they never solved those string of murders either.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be someone related? Could it be someone who lived there during that time and kind of took note of what was happening there? Absolutely.
Yeah. Is that one you believe?
I don't know that I believe it, but I can see its plausibility, and I give that one a little bit more credibility. I think, in all likelihood, depending on the age of that person, it was probably the same guy. I can definitely, as much as Detective D'Antonio raised a lot of paranoia and, like, suspicion about potentially connecting the two, I think it was a smart thing to do, to see those similar murders and being like, oh, okay, it's a cleaver versus an axe, but it's the exact same MO. Like, I think it's valid to connect the similarities. Personally.
The next theory...
Oh, God. Mussolini did it.
No. That's probably a theory, but not one I wrote down. Was that it was a local grocers battle. And that it was the Italian grocery stores competing for the local business. And things got violent. Not necessarily gangs. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
But the grocery stores themselves were fighting to the death.
You know what, though? As absurd as that sounds from a outside perspective,
you ever see West Side Story?
Think about how competitive it is when you're a group of immigrants trying to start up a new business. And I mean, New Orleans is not huge. Especially if you're all starting grocery businesses in the same general vicinity. And you're already, I know you said it's not gang affiliated, but you're already stereotypically quite aggressive people.
Joey, get out of here. I got the monopoly on avocados.
Exactly. It might have some merit to it. Do I think they were hiring the same guy to go fucking attack each other with axes? No. But I can see how there would be some extra tension there.
Okay. Next. Possession. What if it was some guy?
Possession.
Demonic possession.
I thought you meant like a handheld, like a possession that you have. I was like,
Gun.
What? Axe.
I possess an axe. No, what if it was someone who was possessed and the killing stopped because someone exorcised the demon out of the person?
No.
Why? Or why not?
Well, because
that's stupid.
because I don't like that one.
That one's not as fun. Next.
No, I mean, if it was, not to be a party pooper here, but if it was a genuine exorcism, there would be documents of it from the church, and I feel like someone would have come forward with that to be like, well, no, this person we're pretty sure was quite evil, but we got rid of the problem.
So the next two, technically, they're both jazz related.
Love it.
One of which you sort of already mentioned. It was that someone was killing and sent the letter to promote jazz music because they were a lover of jazz. Or it was a jazz musician who was hoping that the
to kind of
crimes would, make it more popular and they could get their big break.
Yeah. I don't necessarily see that as a crazy or out there theory.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, it's quite plausible.
Yeah.
Because the more hype you get, I mean, and we'll talk about, like, Jamie will talk about the Axeman in media. It's a part of pop culture now. It's a part of
so much.
So many different stories that are all almost told through music, too.
Mm-hmm.
Jazz is such a fundamental aspect of New Orleans, but it's also a fundamental aspect of the story of the Axeman.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of came out of nowhere. So, I mean, maybe the first couple murders weren't connected. This is what I think about it. I think maybe someone saw the murders being committed and were like, I can create a fictional story to come from this, to promote the music. I think that's probably likely. But I don't know. I think it has some merit to it because it became infamous.
Yeah.
And like I said before, like the amount of inspiration that you get, whether it was the Joseph John guy writing the music, how many different musicians, like little not signed local artists, got inspiration from that? How many painters, how many writers, how many poets? Like it's a societal.
Even now, over 100 years later, we're doing a podcast on it.
Well, exactly. It's a societal event rather than just a crime.
Did you know one person in America gets murdered every 30 minutes?
I'm weirdly surprised that number is not higher.
One person every 30 minutes? That's a lot.
I'm aware that it's a lot, but in a place that has such lax gun laws, I'm shocked it's not more.
That's on average statistically, not including...
Fair point. Mass murders.
Murders,
Gotcha.
Yeah. Two more. Mafia, turf war, gang violence thing.
I think that probably had some connection.
Yeah. I think it might have a connection, like organized crime might have a connection to like certain ones. If they weren't all committed by the same person.
Yeah.
Maybe the mafia was like, oh, well, you know, what's an Italian name? Mickey over here was doing something, so let's blame the Axeman and go rough him and his wife up.
But this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier. Is you could blame...
I don't allude, baby. I just...
But you can
said.
you can blame crimes on fucking anybody. Because there's no... You're exactly right. You could fuck something up and be like, just leave an axe at the scene of the crime and be like, nah, couldn't have been me. It was the Axeman. There was an axe there. So, yeah, I think that's... I mean, in at least in the Pepitone case. And Esther's new guy, Albano. I think that probably played some role in it.
Yeah. We're almost done, folks. The last theory before I move on to pop culture, I added this one.
Oh, boy.
Alien.
Okay, I'm in.
An alien came to Earth, was like, whoa, so much violence here, wanted to partake a little bit.
Whoa.
And then was like, actually, that was a lot. I feel bad. I'm not into this. And then they, poof, gone. Got back in their saucer, went back to Galaxy 617, and that's why we've never seen them again.
I like it. You know how I feel about alien theories. I'm in.
I knew that would be a crowd pleaser. Save the best to last.
Yeah. We solved it. You're welcome, guys.
Any more comments or concerns before I go pop culture-y?
No, I want to talk about pop culture. Because there's there's two specific parts that I want to talk about.
All right. So I'm going to start listing them off. If you've already, or if you want to talk about it, tell me to shut up so you can talk about it.
Perfect.
So there was a lot under the same name. There were many books and short stories and TV shows all called The Axeman's Jazz. I don't know how they didn't copyright have issues, but there was a 1991 novel called The Axeman's Jazz by Julie Smith. There was an Australian rock band,
Beasts of Bourbon.
The Beasts of Bourbon,
which
released
is such a sick name.
It is quite sick, I will admit. 1984 album called The Axeman's Jazz. You've got 2014 crime novel, The Axeman's Jazz. Mm-hmm. This one I don't know if you knew about, but you've got a TV show where the fourth episode, no, not the fourth episode, Chapter 17, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, Riverdale.
Are you kidding me?
Jughead Jones talks about the Axeman.
Oh, I can't even talk about that show. I hate that show so much. I think it's the stupidest show that was ever created. And I hate it because the Archie comics were such a huge part of my childhood. But whatever. I'm not going to rant about it. But god damn.
Comics. This one I'm assuming you want to talk about American Horror Story Season 3 Coven. There's the Axeman, portrayed by Danny Hudson.
He did a fantastic job, too.
Very good.
The chemistry between him and Jessica Lange. Oh my god.
And the ending that they got.
Oh my god.
Will haunt me and her.
That whole season.
The best season.
The best season. Jamie and I went to see The House.
Oh, it was so cool. It's on sale right now. Somebody buy it for me.
It's for sale, not on sale. At 40% off.
You know what I mean. Was that one of the ones you want to talk about?
Yes.
Or was there... Okay.
I said all that I wanted to say about it.
Just that you love it.
Because, shocker, we're talking about American Horror Story again.
Yep.
I thought it was fantastic. Was it
amazing?
Was it a very accurate portrayal of anything that the Axeman did? No.
That's another theory. A group of witches murdered the Axeman and cursed his ghost to haunt New Orleans for the rest of eternity. Just like in American Horror Story.
No, we came up with that theory on our own. I don't know.
Yeah.
No one's ever thought of that before.
You've got the band called Squirrel Nut Zippers that released a song called Axeman Jazz.
Wow. Squirrel Nut Zippers?
Yup.
I have a new favorite band.
It reminds me of that Phineas and Ferb episode.
Squirrels in my pants.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's a great song.
In their 2018 album of Beasts of Burgundy. You've got...
Less cool than Beasts of Bourbon.
It's still cool.
I guess.
The virtual reality game The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners made reference to the Axeman, apparently multiple times. And a physical appearance of him in the game The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 Retribution. He's been in lots of TV shows, lots of movies, lots of documentaries. BuzzFeed Unsolved did a little
that was
you
the
wanted
other one.
to talk about the YouTube series.
That was where I first heard of the Axeman with Shane and Ryan.
I think you also were the one to show me that.
I was, because I was like, oh, what the fuck?
And I was like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
You've got true crime podcast Unsolved Murders, who did a 3-part miniseries on the Axeman.
Oh.
You've got
Last Podcast on the Left.
Yep, that's on here too. Last Podcast on the Left covered it in one of their first episodes.
It was also a great episode, by the way. Great podcast.
The Phantom, the Axe, and the Torso. Ooh.
It's a great podcast.
You have Stuff You Missed in History Class, which did a 2-part miniseries on the Axeman.
And that's what you missed on Glee. Sorry.
Another true crime podcast, besides us, was My Favorite Murder, and they named it Jazz It. Apparently, the Axeman is mentioned in Season 3, Episode 5, and Season 4, Episode 6 of The Originals.
Okay.
Which is a Vampire Diaries spinoff, so sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, other than that, just lots of inclusions of him in short stories, in
That's
lyrics.
where Mussolini comes in.
Yeah, Mussolini, right. Where was he?
The short story Mussolini and the Axeman's Jazz by Poppy Z. Bright, 1997.
97, yeah. That's where it was. And that's the Axeman.
But like you can see, it's a big part of pop culture still. And again, it goes to show that true crime, like people being interested in true crime and like sensationalizing stuff like this, is not a modern concept. It's just easier to consume now. But there's always been music, there's always been poems, there's always been screenplays, there's always been something where people are inspired by the creepy and the abnormal. The macabre. Yeah. And the Axeman's no different. Again, it's terrible, and I feel bad not being able to give a name to someone who was able to do something like this. Because I think they need to be held accountable for it. Do I think we ever will know who the Axeman was? No. But it would give the families a lot of peace to know that like there was a reason and it wasn't just...
If you or a loved one knows the Axeman's identity, please come forward and call this number.
If you'd like to send us an email from hell
at crimsoncoffee@gmail.com.
But yeah, that's the Axeman. I was surprised we actually didn't hear anything about him when we were in New Orleans.
We didn't!
No, I was looking. But...
not even in the Museum of Death.
No.
Interesting.
Or
maybe
the Museum of Jazz.
To forget it. True.
Yeah.
What's up with that, guys?
Yeah. Talk to us.
I'm going to open up a museum. I'm going to go buy a plot of land in New Orleans, open up a museum about true crime, and charge $10 a ticket to get in.
There you go. Boom. Jamie's got a business plan. We're going to go plan it out. thank you for listening about the Axeman.
You're welcome, guys.
If you would like to chime in and tell us how you feel about the story of the Axeman, what theory do you think is the most plausible? Where do you think he came from? Are you the Axeman? Send us a letter from hell. You never know. You can get in touch with us at our email, which is creepsandcoffee@gmail.com, or you can send us a message over on our Twitter or our Instagram, which is @creepsandcoffee. If you would like an extra exclusive behind-the-scenes look at what we do day to day and access to an extra special bonus episode every month, you can head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/creepsandcoffee and check out some extra special stuff over there. Our users who subscribe at the Sasquatch tier, which is my favorite thing ever, get a very special shout out here at the end of the show. So we would love to have you. We are so appreciative of you listening, and we would love to hear your thoughts on the Axeman of New Orleans.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Yep.
I don't know.
We thoroughly enjoyed our time in New Orleans, and it's a space, it's a place that will always have a special place in our hearts. And we're so happy that we got to chat about it for a couple episodes.
I'll go back someday.
Someday. All right. Enjoy your day, your night, whatever time it is, wherever you are. We love you. Go listen to some jazz.
Do.
Okay.
Creeps and Coffee is produced and edited by us, Kate and Jane.
Our theme music is Stuck in a Hole by Dated.
For more information on where to find them, check out the link in our show notes. And to connect with us, follow us on Instagram and Twitter @Creeps and Coffee.